What's going on, everybody? Hope you all are having a great week. Another busy week over here in the sports scene around Phoenix. A bunch of stuff going on. Baseball has finally returned. We got a few other things that I'll kind of want to jump into today. Starting off with what is going on with the Suns. Now, we've been talking about them obviously all season and how disappointing and how frustrating everything has been for Phoenix. Another tough road trip kind of opening up here. They start at Milwaukee, and I'll give them so much credit. There was a much better effort out there, and they left it out on the court for the first time and showed some heart in that. Devin Booker really tried to do everything he could to will his team kind of to that win. Weren't able to get it done, but at least it was encouraging, and it looked a lot better than what had happened against the Rockets when they got blown out by 49. But the result's the same, still loss. You'll look at kind of the standings now. They're a game and a half back of the Kings for that 10 spot. And above them, just right above them, are the Mavericks, who play tonight, and they're actually favored in that game. So 7 games left. I mean, there's just not much of a runway here for them to make up any kind of ground, and their road swing doesn't get any easier. Up next, they're playing the Celtics, who, in case you haven't noticed, are awesome. I mean, they're the defending champs, and they're a team that looks like it's either them or the Cavs kind of coming out of the East is what you would have to guess at this point. I mean, they are really, really solid. So all of that leads into kind of the offseason and the worst kept secret in the league right now, which is that the Suns are probably, if not definitely, moving off of Kevin Durant this offseason and pressing a little bit of a soft reboot. Now, Shams at ESPN has been reporting this kind of for months now, kind of what the asking price is, and Phoenix kind of initially setting it out there in little feelers that this is kind of coming down the pipe. Well, he was on Pat McAfee's show today and talks a little bit more about the fact that, yeah, like both sides understand at this point that you're going to have to kind of separate a little bit. And reported a bunch of teams that have interest in KD. So he said the Knicks, the Timberwolves, the Rockets, the Spurs, and the Heat are all interested in it. I said it the other night. It's kind of interesting that the Rockets were on there, kind of ironic in the fact that Houston absolutely obliterated them and kind of put that last final nail in their coffin. And they were also the team that is interested in KD. And the one caveat that the Suns said they needed if they thought about maybe running this team back was to make the play and make a bit of a push towards the playoffs. Houston kind of put into that. But the interesting one there, I think, on a basketball world is the Knicks. Now, apparently there's heavy interest. You're going to have to go through kind of all the trade deals and see how much they have. The Suns have said that they want free first-round picks at least. I feel like that's a bit ambitious. I thought that they maybe get 2 and some picks or some second-round picks and maybe some younger guys or something like that. But that's what they reported they were asking for. So do the Knicks have that? Are they willing to part ways with that for a guy that's getting very long in the tooth? I don't know. We'll see. But the way that Shams made it sound like that is the number one team. Don't know how much that does for the Suns. Like, they got to be able, I don't care what spot he goes to. If I'm Phoenix, what I care about is what am I getting in return and what is that going to allow me to do as far as this soft reboot? Because they got to do something. Everyone keeps hinting at it that this can't be great for Devin Booker. And at a certain point, he's going to look around and say, how am I wasting my best years on a team and a franchise that feels like years away from getting back to competing for a title, just because there's nothing. They got no draft picks right now, and the roster that they constructed, they went all in on, and it has completely fallen apart. So, those are the teams to monitor. Time to start going through, look at the trade machine, see who's got picks, see who's got some things that can make it happen. But the Knicks one is intriguing if that's the one that's leading the race. It's also, I would say this, it's also good for Phoenix in that has everything written on it as a team that's going to have a pretty solid regular season and then flame out in the postseason. and feel like there's going to be a sense of desperation. And if there's one thing in the NBA that you want to do when you're trading or looking for a trade partner, is find somebody that is desperate. And if they can do that with the Knicks, we've seen the Knicks in the past give the war chest for guys, Carmelo Anthony. I mean, they are willing to ship out a lot to go out and get a guy that they think is worth it. I mean, Miguel Bridges, they gave out everything to go get that guy. So worst people to trade with, guys that are willing to kind of overpay. So if they can get $1.20 on the dollar for KD, do it. Like, go out there and kind of hit this little bit of a soft reboot and kind of see where it takes you. Because they ain't going nowhere this year. It's been tough. But we're almost there. We're almost at the end of the season. The pain's almost over. Interesting, speaking of kind of old guys, too, a little bit in the NFL. The Cardinals go out and get Calais Campbell, bringing him back. Their former second-round pick, a guy that is getting ready for his 18th season in the league. That's a lot for quarterbacks. This guy is a D tackle. That's an insane amount. Get him on a pretty friendly deal, $5.5 million. It can go up to, I think it was like 7.5, depending on incentives and stuff like that. I actually kind of like this move for a few reasons. One, the price is good. Two, he's not nearly as productive as he used to be, which, again, he's going to be 39 this year. So, like, give that guy a little bit of a break. But he's available. He played in every game last year. He played in every game the year before that. Now, this is his fourth team in 4 years, and normally there's a reason teams are willing to kind of move off of you. But the main reason I like this deal for Arizona is, one, it addresses the position of need. Everybody knows that the Cardinals' D-line was not cutting it. They tried to address it a little bit mid-season last year. It wasn't going to work. But they knew they had to go out and get somebody, add some pieces, because running it back as it was not an option, or isn't an option. But bigger than that, this is a guy, again, who's going into his 18th season. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler, all right? He's had so much success in this league, and granted, it's been a while since he's been kind of at the top of his game. He hasn't had 7 sacks since 2018. But the wealth of knowledge that he can bring to that room, and this is the key point, Arizona still has that first-round pick. Probably, and should, in my opinion, still take a D lineman somewhere in there. And now that guy can learn under the wings and learn from somebody who's had a Hall of Fame type career in the NFL. You bring him in on a 1-year deal and you say, hey, like, what you can give us on the field, what kind of stats you can provide, that's all extra. What we really need out of you is to mentor this guy, is to help coach this guy and how to be a pro, to show him and to give him all the knowledge that you've gotten over the last 20 years, basically, and help him develop as much as he can this year. That's what we really need out of you. And then, go out there, and if you can get us 5 sacks this year, if you can just get us 30 tackles, that's great. That is a thing that is well worth the investment of $5.5 million, because he has as much experience and knowledge as anybody in the NFL when it comes to that position. Gives him a little bit of depth, gives him a guy that's going to get reps, and it'll be able to kind of, take snaps you can put out there and have confidence in. But just the leadership and the experience that he's going to bring to a group that's going to be very young this year, because they're going to probably go out. I wouldn't be surprised if they got 2 or 3 D linemen in this year's draft. Like, they're going to have to get a bunch of guys on that room. But to add that veteran presence in there, incredible, phenomenal get for them. And it's also just cool and poetic to have him come back and kind of finish out his career here after he spent so many of his seasons, his first 9 years were in Arizona, So that'll be fun to kind of watch. This will probably be his last contract, close to it, I would think. But to finish up his career where it started, to kind of help this franchise kind of usher in the new wave, really, really cool. And I think it'll be very helpful for him this year. They need that. Last thing I want to talk about, Final Four. It is here. Hope you guys made all really boring brackets and picked all one seeds to go. Because if you did, you were a smarter man than me. I didn't, and I didn't win any of my pools because of it. I'm in a couple down the stretch, but I don't think I'm going to win them right now. The flip side of that, of not having that Cinderella, is these are going to be some great games. This is going to be an incredible finish, and these teams were the number one seeds for a reason. They've had incredible years. So looking at the Final Four now, I got two of them right when I was going through the Elite Eight. I thought we might see a couple upsets on the backside of it, but it ended up not being the case. Auburn and Florida do get those wins, and they advance, which makes an SEC Final Four matchup and a very good one. Interesting note on several things going on here. First off, Walter Clay Jr. has emerged in this tournament as an absolute star. Like, he's been good all year long, but to do what he has done for the Gators has been crazy. UF should have lost the last round. I mean, they were absolutely getting just torched, and that game was done. And somehow Texas Tech got shut down by the Gators the last 5 minutes. Well, it was even that, like last 3 minutes. And Florida came back from down like 8 or 9, storming back. Walter Clayton hitting some threes, including one, the go-ahead three through the lane, driving to the corner and like a fadeaway. Unnecessary. There was time left on the shot clock and the game. It wasn't like they needed to shoot it. But to hit that one, like, almost brought me out of my chair. I was like, what is going on right now? So Florida, like I said, they probably should have lost it. They have not played great in this tournament. They've played well enough, and they've played incredible the last, 4 minutes to close things out and kind of make it happen. But they have not looked like the same Florida team that we saw during the SEC tournament, where they were absolutely dominant. Now, the same can be said for Auburn, who, it's been said a million times, lost 3 of 4 games going into the tournament. They looked like their wheels had completely kind of fallen off on this team that, for a while, it was, no question, unanimous number one team in the country. I mean, they were awesome. But they kind of are starting to find that rhythm, I think, a little bit again. They're still not, they don't look like that team that was that unanimous number one, but they do look like that team that is a 1 seed. Broome is now coming off back-to-back games of double-doubles. He's starting to find his rhythm. This team is starting to look a little bit more like that dominant force that they were for a while. You got to look at the fact that, like I said, they're both SEC teams. They played each other earlier this year, and Florida was shorthanded in that game, and it was at Auburn, and the Gators still won by 9 points. That was kind of the moment where I went from looking at Florida from being like, this is a really good team, to, oh, this might be a great team. When it comes down to it, I think I'm going with Florida on the simple fact that there's going to be moments in this game. There's going to be times where both defenses are locked in, and you got to have a guy that can just go out and get you a bucket. And while Broome can do that, I think Walter Clayton is a little bit better at it. And he's shown it throughout this tournament and how clutch he can be. And so I think you're looking at, a 3-point game, a 5-point game. But I think Florida pulls this one out and goes to the national title. On the other side of the bracket, Duke and Houston. Really, really interesting matchup. Houston is the number 1 ranked defense in the entire country. They're giving up 58.3 points per game. That's incredible. Even if it was in the Big Ten this year, which wasn't nearly as good as it kind of has been in the past. But Duke is top 10 in defense and in offense. And here's the thing that it always comes back to right now with this team. One, everyone seemingly knows their role. Everyone is stepping up when their time is called. The first few games, it was Tyrese Proctor. Then Cooper Flagg had an all-time tournament game. Then Con Knipple hits a few threes here and there. And Malawach has turned into this tournament. His draft stock has gone crazy. The amount of stuff that he influences at the rim and changes, you can't help but notice the potential of what it'll really turn into once this guy really figures it out. And we're starting to see him figure it out right now. Houston's never seen anything like this when it comes to this size. And 6'6" at point guard, 6'7" at shooting guard, 6'7" at small forward, 6'10" at power forward, 7'2" at center. And then they bring in a 6'10" guy off the bench for a backup center. I mean, Duke is so big, and everyone's bought in right now. They have certainly played the best basketball of anyone in this tournament to this point. Now, that's not to say they'll keep it up and it'll be the same thing, and it's not to say that Houston can't get hot and beat them in that one game. But it's going to be tough with the way that this team is playing. They look great. I feel like Duke wins this one, and I feel like they win pretty comfortably. They're favored by 5.5. I think they can win this by 10 or 12. I feel really comfortable with that one, actually. So I think we are headed for a Florida-Duke national championship, which sign me up because that would be awesome. Let me know what you guys think. 4 teams left. Who do you got winning it all? And who you got winning these next Final Four games? We are just a couple of days out. College basketball season. It was great, but it's almost done. So let me know what you all think and put it in the comments.